Hi, in today's video I'm going to be covering how to install FFmpeg 5 on Linux, and the way we're going to do that is using nixpkgs. Now nixos is an entire operating system, but it also has a package manager called nixpkgs that can be used on any version of Linux. And the advantage is it's basically self-contained and doesn't interfere with any of your other system libraries. So it allows you to use the latest versions of software, even on older distros like Ubuntu 20.04 and long-term releases. So what I'm going to do is go through how you set this up, and in a previous video I covered how you can set this up on Linux and Mac OS, and these are the notes. So I'm just going to quickly go through the actual notes on how you install the nixpkg package manager. And again, what this is going to allow you to do is install the latest versions of software that aren't in your repository and keep it all self-contained, and allow you to do cool things like have software rollbacks. So the first step that we're actually going to go through, and I cover all this in the video, is we need to create a directory at the root of the file system called nix, and that's where all the software is actually going to be sort of installed and completely separate from the system. So the first step is we run sudo mkdir-p/nix. So I just switch back to terminal. If I run ls with the -l flag to give a long listing, you'll see this is the contents of the nix directory. And if I just run ls and then the /, that's going to list the entire root of the system, and in there you'll see we have this nix directory, and you can see most of these files are owned by root, but this nix directory is owned by my user account and root. So that's the next step we actually need to go through. So let me just go back to the right thing. So what we need to do next is chown that directory, and that basically means change the permissions on the directory. So we run sudo chown $, and in sort of parentheses who am I /nix, and that who am I will basically be replaced with your user account. So that's going to change the permissions on the nix directory, and that's needed so that we can perform what's called a single user install. And basically what this does is it creates sort of symbolic links in your home directory to this folder so that it's easier to manage. So normally you have either a single user install or a multi-user install, and I find the single user installs easier. So to actually kick off installing nixpkgs, we run this command on Linux. Okay, so that's sh perl nixos nix install --no-daemon, and that's basically going to take the install script and start installing nixpkgs. After the install's finished, you're going to get a command like this in the terminal where it says please run this command, and it looks similar to this except it will have your username here. So basically you just copy the command from the terminal and paste it in the terminal again, and that basically makes it pick up all the changes. So there's a couple of things we need to actually do to get nixpkg set up, and one of the things that we need to do is add this line of code to our zsh-env file. And basically what this does is this picks up the xdg directories that are created by Nix applications. So xdg is when you set an association between a file and the program that you want to open it with. So for instance, if you double click an image file, it always opens in your image viewer. And so this is basically needed so that we can sort of run desktop applications and set the file associations. So the next step is actually just creating the nixpkgs config file. And this config file is in .config nixpkgs config.nix. So what we need to do is actually two steps. first of all, we need to actually create the directory for nixpkgs, and we do that by running mkdir-p, and that basically means if the file doesn't exist, create it for us, and then tilde, which is our home directory, /.config nixpkg. So that's going to create the directory for the configuration file. And then after that, what we're going to do is actually create the configuration file, which is going to be called config.nix, and that's going to be in .config nixpkg. So we just run touch tilde /.config nixpkgs config.nix. Once we've got the config file set up, what we want to do is actually add a block of code which is going to contain a list of applications that we want to install. And this is one of the other nice things about nixpkg, is that you can basically have a text file with a list of everything you want to install and just put it on another computer and basically install exactly the same software. So it's really useful. And as I said, it's all going to be self-contained, not interfere with anything else on the system. So these are a list of all the applications I'm actually using nixpkgs to install. So there's a list of command line applications, and the important one here is FFmpeg 5. So what I want to cover is if you've already set up nixpkgs, what you need to do is update the channel. So if I just scroll down here, so when new packages are released to nixpkgs, what you need to do is actually update your software list so that you can install them. So for example, if I come across here and I search for FFmpeg on the unstable branch, what you'll see is we have a couple of listings. We have FFmpeg and we have this new one, FFmpeg 5. And if I come across and show package details, the name of the package here is what's going to be in this list that we're going to install. So you can see here we've got a list of things we're going to install, and FFmpeg refers to version 4.4.1. So what we need to do, we can't just put, if you've already got nixpkgs installed, you can't just edit your configuration file and change FFmpeg to FFmpeg_5, because if you then try and install it, it's going to throw an error because you haven't updated your software list. So what you need to do, first of all, before changing your config to install, let me just, how can I hide this? Hide this. So we want to install FFmpeg_5, not FFmpeg. So what we need to do, first of all, is actually upgrade nixos, and we do that by running nix-channel --update : nix-env --i A nixpkgs.nix and then nixpkgs.ca cert, and that's going to update the list of software that you can install in the packages. And once you've done that, you'll then have FFmpeg 5 available to install. So the procedure is, if you've already got FFmpeg installed using nixpkgs, in your list here it will say FFmpeg. You first need to upgrade nixos. So you run this command. Once you've done that, you can edit your nixpkgs configuration file and change FFmpeg to FFmpeg_5. Once you've done that, I just come back down here, you can then install the packages in that list onto your computer. And the way we do that is by running nix-env --i A nixpkgs.mypackages, and this my packages name here corresponds to this list up here. Basically, you can see here the packages are called my packages, and basically this is a way of installing stuff with Nix. You can install packages individually, but this is a much better way to do it. And just use it. It's something called package overrides, and as I said, basically it's a declarative way of installing your software by just creating a list of things you want to install in a text file, and then just running a simple command, and it's going to install everything. So once we've run this command, what's going to happen is it's going to install FFmpeg 5 for us. So if I switch back to the terminal here and I run FFmpeg-version, you'll see what we have here is FFmpeg version 5.0. Now, I also have FFmpeg installed with apt, which I think was installed as a dependency for another program. So if I run user bin FFmpeg-version, on this one here, you'll see this is FFmpeg 4.2.4 from Ubuntu. So the important thing is, what we actually have is we've got two paths for FFmpeg. So how does the shell know which one to use? So first of all, as I said, we've got the Ubuntu version of FFmpeg, which is in user bin FFmpeg. So where is the version that gets installed with Nix? Because if you run where is FFmpeg, what you'll see here is it's showing user bin FFmpeg, and then this nix store, this random string of characters, user environment bin FFmpeg. And this is how Nix basically stores stuff. It keeps everything in this nix store directory, and each version of an application has a random sort of string that's like a hash. So you have you can have multiple versions of software installed, and basically what it does is uses symlinks to point to the newest version. So instead of running where is FFmpeg, if I now run which FFmpeg, you'll see what it's doing is it's saying home my username .nix profile bin FFmpeg. So if I show you the contents of that directory, nix profile bin, you'll see, let me do it without the ls, that's the long listing. You'll see these are all the applications that I've got installed in my bin directory. And if I just run that with the L flag again, what you'll see is these are actually all symbolic links to the Nix store. So we've got like YTDLP or zip or Zathura, the PDF reader. These are just symbolic links to this Nix store, and they all have these sort of random string of numbers and letters, and that's how basically Nix keeps everything separate. So that's having two versions of FFmpeg installed. So what I just want to show you is how you set up your path on the ZSH. So in my ZSH env file, what we're doing in this section here is we're adding directories to our shell's path. So typically you'll have a bin directory in your home folder for your own custom scripts, or if you sort of install stuff with Python, it might be installed in local bin. So this is where we can sort of set our sort of path here for our bin directory and our Python scripts. But what Nix does is it automatically adds a bit of code. Let me just see if it's down the bottom. Yeah, this section down here. What you'll find is, depending on your shell, what it's going to do is it's automatically going to add this bit of code. It may add it to your zshrc file, but I prefer to put it into my zshenv file. And basically what it's going to do is it sources this file and adds the directories, the directory where all the Nix binaries are installed into your shell's path. So if I come across and run echo path, what you'll see here is we have the Nix profile bin directory, my bin directory, and my local bin directory here. And these are appended to the shell path ahead of user local bin, user local sbin, user local bin. So what that means is FFmpeg that is installed with Nixpkgs will be installed into your Nix profile bin directory, whereas FFmpeg installed with apt or your regular package manager is going to be installed into user local bin. Here you can see user local bin. And so what happens then is, because this directory is in front of this one in the path, it's going to be searched first for applications. So when you run FFmpeg, it's going to search this directory and pick up FFmpeg 5 instead of user local bin, which has got FFmpeg 4.2. I think it's 4.2.4. So again, if I just run FFmpeg, you'll see that's FFmpeg version 5. And again, we run which FFmpeg, and that's going to give us the actual location, home, username, profile bin, FFmpeg. Whereas if we run where is FFmpeg, it's actually showing you the version that's installed with apt, and also the version that's installed in the Nix store. So this here, Nix store, this long string here going to FFmpeg. This here is just a symbolic link to this directory. So what happens is, with Nix, everything is all of the sort of libraries and everything are sort of self-contained in a single directory, so it doesn't interfere with the rest of the system. Basically, all it does is, when you install a new version of something, it creates a new directory and it just updates the symlink to point to the new version. And that basically means you can actually roll back to previous versions if there's a problem, which is very useful. And that's how it works, and how the your shell path can actually find the correct version of FFmpeg installed with Nix, as opposed to the one that may have been installed as a dependency for another application by apt. So that's basically the setup. And as I said, I'll just go through this so you get all the steps clear. So first of all, this is the document, the show notes for this video, which goes into depth about how you set this up. But it's really quite simple. As I said, first of all, if we're starting from scratch, we've got two cases here. One where we're starting from scratch and we're going to install FFmpeg 5. Another case where you've already got Nixpkgs installed and you've got FFmpeg installed and you want to upgrade to version 5. So again, if you're just starting from scratch, all you need to do is come through and copy these commands one by one, create the directory, chown it, run the nixpkg installer script. It's going to print out a command like this. After it's finished in the terminal, you just copy that in the command and paste it in again. Then basically edit your zshenv file or the equivalent for your shell, if you're using bash. and put in this bit of code which will set up the XDG data directories for nixpkg, which allows us, as I said, to create an association between a file we want to open and the application we want to open it with. We then created the nixpkg directory and the config file, and in that config file we added this code. Now obviously you may not want all the application I've got listed here, so you can just basically remove the ones you don't want. So like for a book, which is command line, address book, APG, which is for generating passwords, ARIA, which isn't a downloader, BAT, which is a syntax highlighting pager, an improvement on less. And we've got things like curl and dunce dmax. So you've got a lot of things you can actually install, and also graphical applications. So if you just wanted to install FFmpeg 5, and you've started from scratch, you could just have this in the list. Now, once you've done that, basically, you would just run, once you've created the list and you're doing this from scratch the first time, all you need to do is actually run this command here, nix-env space -I capital A nixpkgs.mypackages, and that's going to install everything in this list. And we find the packages that we want to install using this page, which I'll put a link to, and you can basically search for stuff here. What we're doing is we're using the unstable branch, which will give us the bleeding edge latest release of stuff. So as you can see, we've got FFmpeg 5 here, and this is giving you a command, and this is one way you can install stuff. You'll see here on nixos or on non-nixos. So if you're not using the nixos operating system, you need to select this tab, and as I said, you can install stuff like this, but doing it from a text file is better, because then you've got a complete list of the applications you want to install. And again, you don't put this whole command in the configuration file. You just need the package name after the nixpkgs dot. So you can see here it's just FFmpeg 5, and you can see here that's FFmpeg 5. So that's how you put in the package name. Now that's the case for you're starting from scratch and you just want to install FFmpeg 5. That's all you need to do. It's only a couple of steps, as I said. Just go through those steps, create the config file, put in FFmpeg 5, and then all you've got to do is run this command to install from my packages. Now, if you've already got nixpkg installed and you've got FFmpeg installed, which has got FFmpeg 4.4.1 installed using just FFmpeg in your configuration file, what you need to do is you can't just change the config here to say FFmpeg_5. What you need to do first of all is you need to upgrade nixos. So if you've already got nixpkgs installed with FFmpeg, what you need to do, you need to run this command first of all, and that's going to take a little while, but it's going to sort of update everything and re-download stuff. Once you've run that command, you can then edit your configuration file and change FFmpeg to FFmpeg_5. Once you've done that and saved the config file, all you need to do is run nix-env space -I capital A nixpkgs.mypackages, and then that will install FFmpeg version 5 for you. So that's the two sort of cases trying to cover there: installing from scratch, or you've already got FFmpeg installed with nixpkgs and you want to upgrade to version 5. So it doesn't actually take, it takes a little while to actually perhaps download all the packages the first time, or if you're having to upgrade everything. But once you've done that, as I said, you'll have FFmpeg version 5 available to use, which has got more filters, and the other thing I should cover is, if I just come back to my channel, one of the recent videos I did here was FFmpeg X-fade transition script, and this is basically using transitions in FFmpeg like you'd normally get in a video editor, wipes and fades, fade to black, fade to white, that sort of thing, and that requires FFmpeg version 4.3 or above. So this is a good reason to actually install the latest version of FFmpeg, because the version of FFmpeg that ships with Ubuntu 20.04 doesn't have the X-fade filters in it. So you actually, to run the X-fade filters, you need a later version of FFmpeg. So I set up, I installed FFmpeg, which gave from Nixpkgs, which gave me version 4.4.1. But recently, in the last couple of days, FFmpeg version 5 has come out, so I wanted to upgrade to that. And so basically, hence the video on how to do that from scratch, or if you've already got FFmpeg installed, how to go about upgrading it to get the latest, greatest version of FFmpeg 5. So that's all the steps. I'll put links to all this. Here's the FFmpeg site. There are actually I think there's actually static binaries that you can actually download as well. So if you don't want to use Nixpkgs because you think it's too complicated or whatever, it's only running a few commands in the terminal and creating a text file. You can, some other options are, you can use things like PPAs, but the problem with that is it's going to mess with, it's going to install newer versions of libraries, which then may sort of affect other programs you have or you want to install. It will mean you won't be able to install them. So you'll get mismatch between old libraries and new libraries using a PPA. And I said, I think there's somewhere around, I think there's actually links to static binaries you can get. Maybe it was the other page back here. Go back, download snapshots. Yeah, you have to have a look around on that, but you can just download a static binary of FFmpeg, but I think it's sort of compiled by a sort of, it's not official, so that's the issue. So this is FFmpeg site, so it's got links for Linux, Windows, or Mac. So yeah, there's static builds for macOS. Let's have a look. So you can see this is something called Evermeet. So this is just like some random person on the internet sort of building FFmpeg. So I'm not even sure what version they've got down here. So yeah, this is just done by a third-party person. This is the nixos site, and again, there's two things. There's nixos, which is an entire operating system. Nixpkg is its package manager, and its package manager can be used on any version of Linux or Mac OS X to install the latest and greatest software without interfering with the rest of your system, and allow you to do cool stuff like have software rollbacks and install it all from a single text file. Basically makes it really convenient if you want to copy the exact same setup from one machine to another. You can basically set up Nixpkgs on another machine, copy the config file across, run a command in the terminal, and it's going to install exactly the same software on your second device. So it's very useful for that as well. And this is the Nixpkgs search page for packages. And again, couple of things to note. We're running what's called the unstable branch here, so this is going to give us the latest version. And when you show the package details here, what you have is you'll have two tabs. Now, I'm going to recommend that you don't install stuff by running the actual commands in terminal. So this is the command you'd run if you were using the nixos operating system, but we're not. We're using the package manager. So you select this, and this command will basically just install stuff, but you don't want to do it like that. You want to use the config file, because it gives you a list of everything you've actually installed. And again, you grab the package name is the name after nixpkgs dot. So the package name that we put in the config file is just FFmpeg _5. So if I come across to my config file, config nixpkgs, basically you'll see this is the same file I was showing you on GitHub. And this is basically a list of all the software that I install using nixpkgs just to get the latest and greatest versions. And you'll see here we have FFmpeg _5. So you don't put in that whole command there, that bit of code in the config file. It's just this bit here. So that's how you can basically search for stuff. So it's got a load of stuff, handbrake, for example. You can actually, I haven't tried installing browsers from this, or things like video players. They may have issues working with your graphics card, that sort of thing. You have to check if they're any better or worse. So there's some things that I don't use nixpkgs to install, like browsers. I just use sort of snaps for that, because that's where they're going to be used. Also, I actually use a PPA for OBS Studio, as opposed to installing it from this. I actually tried on a side note, I tried the Flatpak version of OBS Studio, but it doesn't work with NVIDIA env encoding. It'll just give you an error. So I tried the OBS new Flatpak version, and it had lots of issues. The env wasn't working, and it had issues with some of the file dialog windows that opened and stuff. But basically, this is how you search for packages. So here you've got like Emacs, and again you can just grab the package name and put it in your config file. And then once you've done that and you've got your config file, it's a very simple thing to install it all. You just run nix-env -ia nixpkgs my packages, and then it's just basically going to install the new packages from that list. So that's how you can install FFmpeg version 5 using nixpkgs, as I said. And I think this is a really nice way to do it, because it's not going to mess with anything else on your system, like a PPA would. It's not going to cause any dependency issues. It's going to be self-contained. And as I showed you, you can still actually have the version of FFmpeg that may have been installed by a dependency or manually by yourself using apt, and the nixpkgs version at the same time. And again, the shell setup was okay. So this is just how you set your path in ZSH. So this is just if you've got a bin directory, where you keep your scripts, and a local bin directory, which is where things sort of installed by stuff like Python may be installed. But nixpkgs will add this block of code. And it may get added to your ZSHRC file. And as I said, I prefer to put it in the ZSH-env file, Basically, this will source a script that will add the location of the Nix binaries to your system path. So we just run echo path. You see, as I said, we've got the Nix profile is added to our shell path ahead of our system path. As I said, and what that means is when I run FFmpeg, it's going to give me FFmpeg 5. But if I run user bin FFmpeg version, you'll see that's the version that's installed with Ubuntu, which is 4.2.4. And the issue with this is it's a couple of years old, and it doesn't have some of the filters that I showed you in the X-Fade video that I did, which basically will allow you to apply transitions between two clips using loads of different effects. So if I just come across, I'll show you that. Just to show you a reason why you might want the latest version of FFmpeg. So this is basically a list of all the X-Fade filters that are available in version 4.3 and above of FFmpeg. So you got fade, fade black, fade white, wipes, slide down, smooth. You know, you got sort of crops, sort of vertical and horizontal wipe. So you've got all these different effects that you can actually use. A transition between two clips, and basically what I did was created a script that makes it dead simple just to select two clips and apply a transition between them, and it works really quickly, and it'll actually work quicker than opening a video editor. So you've got a video editor and you click it and it's waiting, bouncing, you know, in the dock as it were, before it opens. You can actually do a transition before the video editors even open. So it's a really good reason to upgrade to the latest version of FFmpeg, because you'll get all these nice effects that you can use that you wouldn't be able to otherwise, because the version of FFmpeg that ships with Ubuntu it's quite old. So you may be running a rolling release like Arch or something, in which case you'll get a latest version of FFmpeg, so in theory, but saying that if something can bit off kilter, but you search for Arch Xmonad, I think Xmonad was released like months and months ago. The Xmonad package, let's see if they've actually upgraded it yet. See, you can see Xmonad on Arch Linux, still like about I think it's maybe 4 or 5 months after Xmonad 17 was released. They're still stuck on Xmonad 15. So although, you know, a lot of people like Arch, you know, latest and greatest, there are cases where it doesn't always ring true. So, for example, I did a video on how you can install Xmonad 0.17 using Haskell Stack, like about 4 or 5 months ago. And I see DistroTube were going to do a video, and he's got something called DTOS where he was going to use Xmonad to sort of create a sort of desktop environment. And 4 or 5 months later, he still hasn't done it because Xmonad's not upgraded on Arch. So there are cases where you know, even if you're using a rolling release, using nix-pkgs or another sort of method might be a good thing to do. So I'll put links to all this under the video. So that was the X-Fade transition script. That's the video on actually setting up Nixpkgs package manager on Linux or Mac, and that's the show notes accompanying that, and that's nixos, and this is the package search where you search for stuff. So hopefully that's made the steps a bit clearer on whether you're upgrading from you're installing Nixpkgs from scratch, or you've already got everything installed and you want to upgrade from version 4.4.1 of FFmpeg to version 5. So it's not complicated. All you got to do is actually go through, run these commands, create a text file, just put in the name of the applications you want to install. Then you just run that command and it installs everything from the text file. It's brilliant. You and I said you've got stuff like rollback, so you can always roll back software. It's installed completely separate from the rest of your system, so there's no dependency issues. And again, what it means is that if you've got a separate machine, you can install stuff on one machine and then copy the text file across to another machine and install exactly the same packages. This also works on Ubuntu running under the Windows subsystem for Linux. So you can use Nixpkgs on Ubuntu on Windows, and actually I helped a couple of people set that up, and I wrote a script for FFmpeg scene detection that will take a video and chop it up into chunks, and I've got a guy who's actually got Windows subsystem for Linux running with Ubuntu and got this FFmpeg script working on Ubuntu to chop up videos. So this is something that you can also use on Windows as well. And I was actually chatting to another user who's got an old laptop, and he runs the Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows. So what it means is you can actually file this out on the Windows subsystem for Linux, and then copy the configuration file across to an actual physical machine and install the same packages. So you can try stuff out in a virtual machine, and when you've got it all working, just copy the config to another machine, and you'll have exactly the same setup. So it's really useful. As I said, it's not going to interfere with the rest of the system. If you don't like it, it's really easy to actually remove. So as you can see here, these are the files, the directories rather, that we just need to remove. So we've got the Nix directory, Nix profile, Nix channels, and def expressions, which are in our home directory. So we just got to remove 4 directories from our system, and remove a bit of a code from our ZSH configuration file, and it's completely removed from the system. So there's no harm in trying it out. It's not going to do anything that will affect the rest of your system. So it's easy to set up, easy to remove, and easy to install the latest versions of software, and also have software rollbacks from a single text file. So it's a really great way to install the latest version of FFmpeg. It will give you access to more filters like the X-fade filter that I showed you in a previous video. That will allow you to do more stuff, chopping up your video and audio or adding effects to it. So that's all for now, and that's basically how to install FFmpeg version 5 with Nixpkg on Linux without affecting the rest of your system or causing any dependency issues like you might get with a PPA, for example.